An ancient personal letter brought experts to tears. A tomb filled with gold and precious treasures concealed something that sent chills down people's spines. A mummy bore a wound that had remained unhealed for thousands of years. And even 10,000-year-old ghostly footprints that appear only when it rains, then vanish the moment sunlight touches the ground. What are all these things trying to tell us? Has history ever truly been at rest? Or deep beneath the earth, is the past still whispering, waiting for someone curious enough to listen? Every archaeological discovery is not simply a dusty relic from another age. Behind each one lies the fate of a human being, the secrets of an entire civilization, or stories powerful enough to change the way we see this world. Hello and welcome to the channel Ancient History. My friend, if you think archaeology is nothing more than digging in the dirt and uncovering bones, today you may have to think again. You see, some discoveries have truly transformed the way humanity understands its ancestors. Some mysteries have kept scientists debating for decades without reaching a final answer. And some stories that sound like pure legend have been proven true by clear archaeological evidence. On today's journey, we will step into a world of mysterious archaeological discoveries from around the globe that will leave you stunned, where every artifact is not merely an ancient object, but a piece of a chilling puzzle waiting to be revealed. Are you ready to begin exploring the most extraordinary mysteries the past has left behind? If you are, then let's dive into our first discovery right now. The secret letter in the ancient tomb of a 25-year-old princess in China. You know, archaeology has always been something mysterious, fascinating, and remarkably good at awakening our curiosity. Some treasures, once unearthed, leave people in awe of their exquisite craftsmanship. But others, the longer you look at them, the heavier your heart feels. A powerful example of this occurred in 2001 during the expansion of a university campus in Xi'an, China, a region that was once among the most magnificent capitals of the Tang dynasty. Quite by accident, workers discovered an entire complex of 182 ancient tombs buried deep underground. Among those hundreds of graves, one in particular captured the attention of archaeologists, the tomb of a young princess. She was identified as Li Cui, the fifth-generation granddaughter of Emperor Gaozu of Tang, Li Yuan, the founding emperor of the Tang dynasty in Chinese history. Born into royalty and carrying noble blood, she died at just 25 years old, an age when life has only just begun to ripen, when dreams remain unfinished and happiness is only beginning. And yet, it all came to an end. Isn't that truly heartbreaking? Inside the tomb, the marks of time were unmistakable. Floods and earthquakes over the centuries had shifted some burial objects and caused minor damage. Yet remarkably, the tomb had never been looted. Because of this rare stroke of fortune, archaeologists were able to uncover what was essentially an intact treasure trove. Gold, silver, porcelain, jade jewelry, all of it vividly reflected the sophistication and prosperity of the era and spoke to the noble status of its owner. But among the countless treasures, one object left everyone stunned: a phoenix crown, a ceremonial headdress once reserved for empresses and imperial consorts, so magnificent it was almost beyond belief. Although it had lain underground for 12 centuries, with many joints broken and several details corroded, the crown as a whole still radiated an extraordinary sense of dignity and refinement. In February 2010, experts from China and Germany worked together to restore the phoenix crown using the recovered fragments. Once completed, it revealed just how extraordinary the craftsmanship of Tang dynasty artisans had truly been. The crown stands 16.5 inches tall and weighs over 28 ounces. It is inlaid with 370 precious stones, including turquoise, amber, pearls, rubies, agate, seashells, interwoven with gold and silver. Most astonishing of all are the tiny gold beads measuring just 0.004 inches in diameter, so small they can only be clearly seen under a microscope. Can you imagine that more than 1,000 years ago, without modern machinery, ancient craftsmen were able to create such intricate details? When the phoenix crown was first displayed to the public in 2010, it was quickly recognized as one of the most magnificent phoenix crowns in Chinese history. Yet the more people admired its brilliance, the more they felt a quiet sorrow when thinking about the woman who once wore it. According to historical records, Li Cui died during childbirth. She left this world at a painfully young age, leaving behind an infant still wrapped in swaddling cloth. Inside the tomb, archaeologists discovered several lines of a heartfelt letter written by her husband, Hao Mochen. It read, "There is a child still in swaddling clothes. One look is enough to break the heart. In this desolate land overgrown with wild grass, for 10,000 years to come, how sorrowful it will be." Though only a few brief lines, they carry immeasurable grief, as if the sorrow had seeped into the very layers of earth and stone. Her husband, Hao Mochen, was only a 7th-rank official responsible for organizing and editing records at the Jiheng Library. Given his position, marrying a royal princess was once considered marrying above his station. But Li Chui never cared about such gossip. She chose the man she loved and lived peacefully by his side. For a time, they shared a quiet and genuine happiness despite the difference in status. Tragically, that happiness was as fleeting as a flash of lightning. The young wife passed away, leaving behind a newborn child and a husband forced to face his solitude alone. Perhaps it is those heartfelt lines that are the true treasure, more moving to modern historians than any gold or jewel. Because in the end, what remains after more than 1,200 years is not only a glittering phoenix crown, but a story of love, loss, and the fragile fate of a human life amid the relentless currents of history. Don't you think so? The 3,700-year-old queen's remains in an ancient tomb filled with rare jewelry. If I told you that around 3,700 years ago, in what is now southern Spain, there may have existed a society where women held the highest political power, what would you think? Hard to believe, right? And yet, an archaeological discovery at the La Almoloya site has truly forced scientists to reconsider the role of women in Bronze Age Europe. The story began in 2014, when archaeologists were excavating the ruins of La Almoloya in the region of Murcia, Spain. Beneath the floor of a large room in the ancient complex, they uncovered the skeletal remains of a man and a woman, buried together inside a large ceramic jar. Both date back to around the mid-17th century BC. What caught researchers' attention was not only the fact that they were buried together, but also the 29 high-value objects placed beside them. Initial examinations revealed that the woman died in her early 20s, possibly from tuberculosis. She was laid on her back, her legs bent toward the man. During her lifetime, she had a congenital physical condition, yet this appears not to have diminished her social standing. On her remains, archaeologists found numerous silver ornaments, hair ties, earrings, bracelets, rings, and most notably, an exquisitely crafted silver diadem. It was this diadem that led researchers to believe she was no ordinary woman. The man, meanwhile, was in his 30s. When buried, he wore gold earrings. A silver ring was found near his back, and beside him lay a bronze dagger secured with 4 silver rivets. Genetic analysis showed that the two shared children, including a young daughter who was buried elsewhere at the site. They were clearly a family, but who truly held the power? That question is difficult to answer. What researchers do know is that, based on the artifacts found, the couple belonged to the elite class of the El Argar civilization, a flourishing Bronze Age society that thrived from around 2200 to 1500 BC. Notably, the room where the remains were discovered was not an ordinary living space. It was a large hall with benches capable of seating about 50 people. Researchers have referred to it as a kind of parliament, as it may once have been the setting for important political activities, perhaps even an early form of palace. What surprised archaeologists even more was that when this tomb was compared with 4 other El Argar burials located hundreds of miles away, remarkable similarities emerged. High-status women were typically buried with diadems, while men were buried with swords or daggers. However, the quantity and quality of grave goods found with men were often inferior. This suggests that although men may have been warriors and enforcers, true political power may very well have rested in the hands of women. According to study co-author Cristina Rihuete, swords may have served to enforce political decisions, but the ones making those decisions could have been women. It points to a society where gender roles were clearly defined. Men managed weapons and territorial expansion, while women occupied the highest leadership positions. La Almoloya, first discovered in 1944, is considered one of the central sites of the El Argar society, one of the earliest civilizations in the region to use bronze, build urban settlements, and establish a class-based state structure. The division of wealth and labor appeared very early on. And now, these new findings reveal yet another dimension. The balance of power may have tilted toward women. The building where the two individuals were found was burned down not long after their burial, as if a chapter of history had closed in flames. Yet thousands of years later, from beneath those layers of ash, a question still echoes. In that distant age, were women the true decision-makers behind the forces that shaped an entire civilization? What do you think? Feel free to share your thoughts or anything you know about this civilization in the comments below. The mummy with a deformed hole in his skull. Amid the cold, dense layers of mud in the marshlands of northern Germany, a man lay undisturbed for more than 2 millennia, as if time itself had forgotten he ever existed. No gravestone, no farewell, only the damp earth silently preserving his entire story. Then, in 1871, during a survey near the city of Kiel, experts made a startling discovery. A bog body later named the Sacsayhuaman man, one of the marshland remains that sent chills through the archaeological community. What makes this case so unsettling is how remarkably well preserved the body was. Thanks to the acidic, oxygen-poor bog environment, the man's skin, hair, and many soft tissues survived in astonishing condition despite the passage of thousands of years. Just imagine, how could a human body endure for so many centuries and still remain, as if death had come only yesterday? After the discovery, specialists conducted extensive examinations and analyses to uncover the identity of this unfortunate man. The results showed that he had lived sometime during the 1st or 2nd century BC. Based on his skeletal structure and physical condition, researchers estimated that he died between the ages of 40 and 50, an age not necessarily considered old in the ancient world. But most striking of all was that his death was not natural. It was neither illness nor accident. He had been killed. Researchers found a triangular hole in his skull, the unmistakable mark of an extremely powerful blow to the head. The strike was forceful enough to pierce the skull, revealing the brutality of his final moments. Can you picture it? A decisive swing, a sharp cracking impact, then silence settling over the desolate marsh. No witnesses, no trial, only nature preserving the evidence for more than 2,000 years. The wound indicates that he suffered a violent and painful death, perhaps sudden, perhaps the outcome of a conflict we will never fully understand. This raises an important question. Why was his body left in the bog? Across prehistoric and ancient Europe, many bog bodies have been discovered bearing signs of violent deaths. Some theories suggest they were victims of ritual sacrifice. Others believe they may have been criminals or traitors executed as punishment. However, these remain only hypotheses. So was the Sacsayhuaman man the victim of a religious ritual, or was he killed over a personal dispute? To this day, scholars continue to debate the answer. What is certain is that the bog did not merely swallow his body, it preserved every detail of the crime. Because of that unique environment, we are now able to look directly into the face of a man who once lived, breathed, perhaps had a family and a story of his own. Each time a bog body is uncovered, it is as though another door to the past is opened. And the story of the Sacsayhuaman man reminds us that history is not always made of dry pages in a book. Sometimes it is a triangular wound in a skull, a silent testament to a mysterious death that even today we have yet to fully explain. 10,000-year-old ghost footprints that appear only in the rain and vanish in sunlight. In a barren landscape where the wind carries nothing but dust and white salt, there are moments when the past unexpectedly rises from beneath the earth. Not pyramids, not crumbling fortresses, but bare footprints pressed into the sand. Footprints left by humans at least 10,000 years ago. Strangely, they are not always visible. They emerge only when it rains, and then quietly disappear again once the sunlight dries the ground. It may sound like something out of a science fiction movie, but this remarkable discovery is entirely real. It was documented near Hill Air Force Base, in the desert regions surrounding the Great Salt Lake in Utah. Today, the area is dry and intensely salty. But if you could travel back to the end of the last ice age, you would see a completely different scene. The region was once a vast wetland, the remnant of a massive prehistoric lake that covered much of what is now the western United States. Over time, as Earth's climate changed, the lake gradually dried up. It was during this transitional period that humans lived and moved through the area. At first, Archaeologists only happened to notice a few faint footprints, but after using ground-penetrating radar to scan the surrounding terrain, they identified at least 88 individual footprints belonging to both adults and children. Think about that. Not just one person passing through, but possibly an entire group, even a family, once walking across the shallow waters. What does that tell us? Archaeologist Darren Duke, who led the research team, explained that ancient inhabitants appeared to have walked extensively in this area. At the time, the ground consisted of damp lakeshore sand, much like a modern beach. Each step sank into the shallow water and was quickly covered by sand. It might seem that such traces would vanish completely, but the reality was different. Beneath the sand lay a layer of fine mud capable of preserving impressions much like ink soaking into paper. That layer silently safeguarded these footprints for thousands of years. What makes the discovery feel almost ghostly is the way the prints reveal themselves. When rain falls, water quickly seeps into the sediment below. This process changes the color of the ground's surface, causing the mud that once held the footprints to darken compared to the surrounding sand. As a result, the shapes of the feet suddenly become visible, standing out against the lighter desert floor. But once the sun rises high and the moisture evaporates, the prints fade back into the landscape, as if no one had ever walked there at all. This phenomenon not only sparks curiosity, but also provides a valuable research opportunity. Using radiocarbon dating, scientists hope to analyze tiny remnants of organic material preserved in the sediment. Through this, they may gain deeper insight into the biology, environment, and settlement patterns of prehistoric people in the region. These footprints may serve as evidence that humans successfully adapted and survived during the dramatic climate changes at the end of the last ice age. They are like a diary written in earth, recording each step, each ordinary moment of people who lived 10,000 years before us. Perhaps it was a mother guiding her child across shallow water. Perhaps it was a group searching for food. Each footprint is a fragment of an unfinished story. And what makes us pause and reflect is this. Despite being separated by 10 millennia, those bare footprints look strikingly familiar. The people who made them walked, lived, and adapted, just as we do today. The only difference is that they left their traces for time to protect, waiting for an unexpected rainfall to retell their story in the heart of the Utah desert. Isn't that fascinating? 100-million-year-old fossil skeleton in Australia. Imagine standing in a remote, sun-scorched landscape that was once the floor of a deep ocean hundreds of millions of years ago. Then, in that dry red earth, you suddenly spot part of a fossilized bone protruding from the ground. Not from an ordinary animal, but from a massive prehistoric marine creature. That is exactly what happened in remote Queensland, Australia, where 3 amateur paleontologists, adorably nicknamed the Fossil Chicks, accidentally unearthed one of the most spectacular paleontological discoveries in recent history. A nearly complete fossil skeleton of a juvenile plesiosaur, a 20-foot-long marine reptile that lived more than 100 million years ago. Known as an elasmosaur, this extraordinary creature is far more than just another fossil. It is an incredibly valuable piece of the puzzle, helping scientists trace clues about life during the Cretaceous period, the age dominated by dinosaurs and enormous marine reptiles. According to Espen Knutsen, a senior curator at the Queensland Museum, this discovery is comparable to a Rosetta Stone for paleontology. Why? Because when a plesiosaur died, its head and extremely long neck, which made up nearly 2/3 of its body, would typically detach due to decomposition and scavenger activity. As a result, finding a fossil with both the skull and body intact is exceptionally rare. These marine reptiles once lived in the Eromanga Sea, an ancient inland sea that covered much of Australia's interior at depths of about 165 feet. Plesiosaurs were formidable predators. Unlike fish, however, they did not have gills. They had to surface to breathe, making them more similar to modern whales. What makes this discovery even more exciting is that the specimen is a juvenile. This offers scientists a rare opportunity to study how these giant creatures developed through different stages of life. Knutsen also revealed that by analyzing the chemical composition of the fossil's teeth, researchers hope to determine its diet, migration patterns, and habitat. Such data are invaluable for reconstructing a vivid picture of ecosystems from over 100 million years ago, from how these animals moved to what they ate and where they lived. And if you think this is an isolated discovery, think again. In just the past few years, Australia has become a paleontological hotspot. From the fossil skeleton of a gigantic dinosaur nicknamed Cooper, as tall as a two-story building and as long as a basketball court, to the remarkable discovery of a flying dragon, a terrifying carnivorous creature that soared across Australian skies 105 million years ago. All of these discoveries are gradually revealing a fascinating truth. This now arid land was once the stage for extraordinary life forms, where fierce survival battles played out among marine reptiles, dinosaurs, and aerial predators. And today, each time the red Earth is turned over, the past rises again, challenging our current understanding of Earth's history. The miracle formula that preserved the Dead Sea Scrolls for 2,000 years has finally been discovered. In the arid wilderness east of the Judean desert, rock caves once quietly safeguarded one of humanity's most precious textual treasures, the Dead Sea Scrolls. This extraordinary collection of ancient manuscripts is considered a historical treasure, containing the oldest known handwritten copies of the Hebrew Bible. Dating from approximately 408 BC to 318 AD, these scrolls lay undisturbed for nearly 2 millennia in more than a dozen caves at Qumran, in what is now the West Bank. What has astonished scientists is not only the immense historical and religious value of their contents, but also the remarkable way they survived the passage of time. Think about it. Parchment made from animal skin, only about 0.004 inches thick, should have deteriorated long ago. Yet the most beautifully preserved scroll among the nearly 1,000 discovered remains strikingly bright and intact. How is that possible? All of the scrolls had been placed inside clay jars and hidden in caves, likely to protect them from destruction by the ancient Romans. But the dry climate alone does not fully explain their extraordinary preservation. The real secret was uncovered when Professor Admir Masick and his colleagues analyzed fragments of parchment using microscopy, X-ray spectroscopy, and Raman spectroscopy. The results surprised many researchers. On the surface of the parchment, they found a unique mixture of salts containing varying proportions of calcium, sodium, and sulfur. Notably, this specific salt composition does not occur naturally in the area surrounding the Dead Sea. In other words, this was not a random environmental effect. It was the result of an intentional processing method. According to the research team's hypothesis, ancient scribes treated the parchment with a special salt solution and allowed it to evaporate. After the first layer dried, they likely rubbed additional salts onto the surface to complete the preparation. This process created a protective mineral layer that prevented the parchment from breaking down for 2,000 years. The parchment itself was made from animal skins that had been carefully dehaired, defatted, scraped clean, and stretched on frames, a highly skilled craft. But it was this miracle salt treatment that proved to be the true key to its durability. Ironically, most of the damage to the Dead Sea Scrolls did not occur during their 2,000 years resting in the caves of Qumran. According to Professor Masick, significant deterioration resulted from modern efforts to soften and unfold the scrolls after their discovery so they could be read and studied. The unique mineral layer has the ability to absorb moisture from the air. Once removed from their naturally dry environment, the scrolls began absorbing humidity, gradually damaging the underlying material. It is a sobering paradox. Our curiosity and desire to understand the past have, at times, unintentionally threatened the very heritage our ancestors preserved for thousands of years. For this reason, ongoing research on the Dead Sea Scrolls demands greater caution than ever before, from storage conditions to handling methods. The story of these ancient manuscripts is not merely about uncovering an old preservation formula. It also reveals that the ingenuity of ancient people far exceeded what we once imagined. In the harsh desert, they developed a material capable of defying time itself. Today, as modern science slowly peels back each layer of mystery, we are reminded that the past is never simple. It always holds secrets waiting to be discovered, if we are patient enough and respectful enough to truly listen. 1,200-year-old mansion in the Negev desert. In the arid expanse of the Negev desert, where it seems there is nothing but sand, wind, and scorching sunlight stretching to the horizon, a secret lay buried for more than 1,200 years before suddenly coming to light. Archaeologists recently announced the excavation of a luxurious ancient mansion in a Bedouin town in southern Israel, unveiling a fascinating new chapter in Middle Eastern history. No one expected that in a land as barren and harsh as the Negev, there had once stood what could be described as a luxury rural estate. This was not merely an old house, but an astonishingly refined architectural complex dating from the 8th to 9th centuries, the early Islamic period. The Israel Antiquities Authority described the site as a jewel buried beneath the sand. Marble-paved corridors and walls adorned with delicate frescoes seem to recount the story of a once glorious era. What makes this discovery especially remarkable is not only the beauty of the structure, but also its geographic context. This is the first find of its kind ever uncovered in the Negev desert, a mansion featuring vaulted architecture arranged around a central courtyard, a style typical of early Islamic design, appearing so far from the political and economic centers of the time, has raised numerous questions. Who lived here? Why build such an opulent residence in the middle of an unforgiving desert? The answers may lie beneath the surface. In underground chambers and storage rooms, excavators discovered ancient oil lamps and a subterranean water cistern, evidence that this mansion was not simply a dwelling, but a carefully planned space designed for both daily life and hosting guests. This was no ordinary residence. According to archaeologist Noe D. Michael, the luxurious compound and its complex underground systems demonstrate the considerable wealth and power of its owner. Whoever lived here not only had the authority to construct such an imposing estate, but also the influence and resources to maintain exceptional comfort in the harsh desert environment. Based on the findings, it is reasonable to conclude that the resident was a person of high status, perhaps a local ruler or elite leader, someone who possessed not only power, but also refined taste and impressive organizational ability. This discovery opens an entirely new perspective on the history of the Negev region. Previously, there had been no indication that this area had ever been home to nobility or ruling elites. Now, this grand architectural complex stands like a whisper from the past, suggesting that the land was once prosperous, a setting for displays of power where art, architecture, and survival strategies existed side by side. We are witnessing vivid evidence of human adaptation and advancement during the early Islamic period. Rather than being subdued by the harsh natural environment, people transformed the Negev into a place where they could live, thrive, and express social status. The find also illustrates the extent of Islamic influence in the 8th century, not only religiously, but architecturally, economically, and culturally. This is more than an archaeological discovery. It is an essential piece of a larger puzzle that helps reconstruct the broader history of the ancient Middle East. The marble stones, the remaining frescoes, even the water cistern and oil lamps, all serve as clues guiding us back to a time when rulers lived in hidden desert estates, surrounded by luxury and authority. This discovery is not simply about uncovering an old house. It is a gateway through time, opening a journey into a civilization that once thrived in a place seemingly unfit for survival. It reminds us that beneath the thick layers of history's dust, countless untold stories remain. Stories of power, ambition, and humanity's ability to overcome nature. And perhaps this is only the beginning. The Negev may still conceal many more secrets, waiting to be revealed by those who continue searching for truth among the fragments of time. A 2,300-year-old glass workshop filled with Celtic coins. In July 2023, archaeologists in the Czech Republic made a discovery that sent waves of excitement through the research community. The oldest known glass workshop north of the Alps, dating back approximately 2,300 years. Remarkably, this site was not merely a place of craft production. It may also have held ritual or spiritual significance for the ancient people who lived there. The site is part of an ancient settlement known as Nemčice, which flourished during the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC. Here, artisans once created exquisite glass bracelets and beads, items that were not only decorative but also symbols of status and power. Imagine this. More than 2 millennia ago, in a Europe that was still largely untamed, skilled craftspeople were melting glass and shaping intricate details by hand, relying on inherited knowledge and experience. Doesn't that suggest a remarkable level of development? During the excavation, archaeologists also uncovered more than 2,000 gold and silver coins minted by the Celts, a people who once inhabited vast regions across Europe. Such a large number of coins indicates that Nemchitsi was no ordinary village. It was likely an important trade center where goods and wealth were actively exchanged. In fact, the site was first discovered in 2002. Early surveys revealed sunken huts, bronze amulets, and coins scattered throughout the area. Those coins served as crucial clues, suggesting that the settlement may have been part of the Amber Road, a vast trade network linking the Baltic Sea region with the Mediterranean. This route was once a major commercial artery of ancient Europe, along which amber, precious metals, and other goods were transported across hundreds, even thousands of miles. However, it took more than 20 years before archaeologists finally uncovered clear evidence of the glass workshop itself. Although no direct glass-making tools were found, researchers identified a mixture of finished and unfinished glass products, along with amber artifacts. This strongly suggests that the items were produced on-site rather than imported. The simultaneous presence of glass and amber further reinforces the idea that this location was once a major production and trading hub. Even more intriguing, beyond the artifacts, researchers discovered a distinctive square structure reminiscent of ancient ritual architecture. This design resembles the site of Sandburg in Austria, which was once occupied by the Celts and is believed to have been used for ceremonial purposes. This raises an important question. Was Nemchitsa solely a commercial center, or was it also a place where significant rituals took place, a location where material wealth and spiritual life intersected? If so, we may be looking at a far more complex picture of ancient Celtic society. They were not merely warriors or traders, but communities with rich spiritual traditions. The placement of a production workshop within what may have been a ritual space suggests that glass objects were not just commodities, they may have carried symbolic meaning as well. This discovery opens a new perspective on pre-Roman Europe. Rather than scattered tribes, there may have been developed economic and ceremonial centers connected through expansive trade networks. And today, in the heart of the modern Czech Republic, that 2,300-year-old glass workshop tells the story of a once thriving culture, one that combined refined craftsmanship with spiritual belief, leaving an enduring mark on the flow of history. Shoe trapped in a bog for 2,000 years, still intact like new. On June 21, 2021, researchers from the Office for the Preservation of Monuments in Lower Austria, working together with the German excavation company Denkmal 3D, discovered an ancient shoe beside a wooden roadway dating back as far as 2,000 years. What makes the find remarkable is that the shoe was almost completely intact, despite having rested beneath layers of mud for 2 millennia. Nearby, archaeologists also found a broken wagon axle, leading them to speculate that someone may have lost the shoe while replacing the axle along that muddy stretch of road. Have you ever wondered how leather and wood, materials that typically decay so easily, could survive for so long? The answer lies in the bog environment itself. High acidity levels combined with oxygen-poor conditions created what can only be described as a natural vault, perfectly preserving whatever was buried beneath. Because of this unique environment, we are able today to touch authentic fragments of history. In fact, building wooden roads across wetlands was not uncommon in the past. Throughout many parts of Europe, ancient communities laid down large timber logs to create stable passageways for people and horse-drawn wagons to cross waterlogged terrain. Most of those roads, however, have long since disappeared with time. Only a few have survived thanks to exceptional preservation conditions. For example, in May 2021, during the installation of a heating system in the city of Dortmund, Germany, workers unexpectedly uncovered a wooden road dating back about 1,000 years to the medieval period. It had been preserved beneath a thick layer of clay. But the story does not end there. The 2,000-year-old shoe is only a small part of the broader search for humanity's oldest footprints. In a cave in Armenia, archaeologists once discovered a pair of cowhide leather shoes dating back 5,500 years. The shoes were stitched with leather cord, their laces still intact, and their structure astonishingly well preserved. Many studies suggest they may have belonged to a woman and were placed in the cave as part of a special ritual. The deeper researchers look, the more chilling the discoveries become. Inside that same cave, scientists also found 3 vessels containing the skulls of children, along with jars holding barley, wheat, and apricots. Why such a strange combination of food and human remains? Was it part of a harvest ritual, or a ceremony to guide souls into the afterlife? Those questions remain unanswered. as if the past itself is testing our curiosity. From a shoe trapped in a bog to wooden roads hidden beneath the earth, each discovery reminds us that history has never truly been asleep. It is simply waiting to be found. And who knows, perhaps right beneath our feet today, 2,000-year-old stories are quietly waiting for the moment they can finally be told. It is entirely possible. Valley of the Kings, the resting place of ancient Egypt's most powerful pharaohs. In the barren desert along the west bank of the Nile River lies a place where scorching daytime sands and cold nighttime winds have guarded secrets for thousands of years. Not towering pyramids beneath an open blue sky, but tombs carved deep into rocky mountains. This is where the pharaohs of ancient Egypt chose their final resting place for their earthly journey. It is here that much of what we know today about a civilization that once astonished the world has been preserved. Located near the ancient capital of Thebes, the Valley of the Kings is one of the most famous archaeological sites on the planet. 63 tombs of pharaohs, queens, and high-ranking officials have been discovered here, scattered across the East Valley and the West Valley. This royal burial ground was established after Egypt was unified and entered the New Kingdom period, approximately 1550 to 1077 BC, a time considered one of the wealthiest and most prosperous eras in Egyptian history. During this golden age, pharaohs no longer built massive pyramids across the plains. Instead, they carved deep into the cliffs, creating elaborate and more concealed tombs. The remote mountain setting was seen as crucial in preventing tomb robbery, although history shows that this strategy was not always successful. The tombs were designed according to the natural terrain, so each one differs in size and structure. Some are simple, consisting of only a small chamber, while others are highly complex, with hundreds of corridors and rooms. Inside these deep chambers lies an entire world prepared for the deceased. From golden sandals and intricately carved coffins to statues of gods, chariots, jewelry, and everyday items, everything was carefully arranged. The ancient Egyptians believed that death was not an end, but merely a transition to the afterlife. For that reason, they provided pharaohs with everything necessary to continue their existence in eternity. By examining the interior arrangements and the murals that cover the stone walls, we can clearly imagine their funeral rituals, religious beliefs, and profound faith in rebirth. Famous names such as Tutankhamun, Seti I, and Ramesses II rest here. Among them, the largest tomb belongs to the sons of Ramesses II, who ruled from 1303 to 1213 BC. Although only partially excavated, archaeologists believe that at least 4 of his 52 sons were buried there. As of 2006, more than 200 corridors and chambers had been uncovered, making it the most complex structure in the entire valley. Yet, like many other tombs, most of its burial treasures were looted long ago. In contrast, the tomb of Tutankhamun is the most famous, despite its relatively modest size. Many theories suggest that because the young king died at only 18 or 19 years old, construction had to be completed quickly. Ironically, that very modesty may have helped the tomb escape widespread attention and avoid looting for centuries. When it was finally excavated, thousands of artifacts, nearly intact, astonished the world. From that moment, mysterious stories began to spread. Several members of the excavation team reportedly fell ill, and some even died, fueling rumors of the curse of the pharaoh. Was it merely coincidence, or a symbolic way of protecting the young king's eternal rest? The answer remains debated to this day, but such mysteries only add to the enduring fascination of the Valley of the Kings. In that seemingly desolate desert, each tomb serves as a doorway into a glorious past. And the more we learn, the clearer it becomes that the ancient Egyptians did more than build resting places for their kings. They left behind a living treasury of history, where power, faith, and immortality blend into a story that continues to captivate humanity's imagination. The stone walls of Sacsayhuaman and the unanswered mysteries. Imagine standing before an ancient structure rising majestically against the sky, once considered the stone heart of a great civilization. What would you think? Massive stone blocks, some weighing up to hundreds of tons, are fitted together with such precision that not even a sheet of paper can slip between them. And most remarkably, the entire structure was built without a single drop of mortar. Yes, the monument in question is Sacsayhuaman, an awe-inspiring and mysterious construction of the Inca civilization, located on the outskirts of the ancient city of Cusco, once the sacred capital of this powerful empire. Sacsayhuaman, also pronounced in the native Quechua language as Sacsayhuaman, is far more than the ruins of a fortress. It is a symphony in stone, created with engineering skill far ahead of its time. Its zigzagging walls rise in 3 terraced tiers like the scales of a dragon. Each enormous stone was meticulously shaped and fitted together so perfectly that the entire complex appears to have been carved from a single massive block. One of the walls stretches about 1,300 feet long and stands approximately 20 feet high, while the largest individual stone reaches nearly 28 feet in height. It is almost unbelievable to think that this was accomplished centuries ago, by hand, without machinery, and without cement. Scholars estimate that the original Sacsayhuaman complex was 4 times larger than what remains today and could accommodate more than 10,000 people. You may also be surprised to learn that the Quilca culture, predecessors of the Inca, began constructing the earliest walls here in the 12th century, hundreds of years before the Inca Empire reached its golden age. This means Sacsayhuaman is not merely an Inca symbol. It is a living testament to generations of ancient inhabitants of the Cusco region. Yet Sacsayhuaman was likely more than just a fortress. Recent archaeological surveys suggest it may have functioned as a sacred temple, a site dedicated to the worship of the sun, the supreme deity in Inca culture. 3 towers once stood on circular foundations above the massive stone walls. These towers are believed to have been used for sacred ceremonies, where priests lifted their prayers toward the radiant light of the Andean sunrise. Then, in the 16th century, tragedy struck. When the Spanish forces entered Cusco, they dismantled much of Sacsayhuaman in an effort to erase indigenous cultural symbols. They also reused stones from the sacred site to build houses, churches, and mansions for the colonial elite. What remains today are the stones that even the Spanish could not move. Some of these blocks weigh as much as 200 tons and still stand in place, powerful proof of the endurance and extraordinary craftsmanship of ancient hands. As you look at this monumental structure, have you ever wondered, how did the Inca transport and position such enormous stones? Was there knowledge or technique beyond what we commonly understand today? And if this truly was a sacred temple, how many rituals, how many secrets still lie dormant beneath these ancient layers of stone and earth? The answers are difficult to determine, but one thing is certain: this remarkable structure continues to leave us in awe. Do you see? History is like a book that never truly has a final page. The more we turn its pages, the more we realize how little we actually know about what once happened. Every artifact that is unearthed does more than tell the story of those who came before us. It also raises a question for us today. Who are we within this long flow of time? Perhaps somewhere right beneath your feet at this very moment, a secret still lies hidden, waiting to be revealed. And who knows, the next groundbreaking discovery may be just one shovel strike away from humanity. The past is still waiting to be awakened, but are we truly ready to listen? What do you think about today's remarkable discoveries? Don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any other fascinating discoveries. For now, goodbye, and I'll see you next time.